Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 20, season 5 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live on Wednesdays on Facebook and YouTube throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, I thought it was a fantastic weekend of footy that was spoiled by a heartbreaking Warriors defeat. How are you and how was your weekend?
I'm good, thanks, Brad. The weekend was all good, apart from that loss, like you say. It was a great round of footy. It was spoiled by a heartbreaker. You were right on the money there. So, how are you? How was your weekend?
I'm still filthy, mate.
Yeah, 100%.
Unlike you guys, I actually put money on the Warriors to win in the weekend, and I was taken away. I did see today when I was putting my multi-bet on that I magically got a $5 bonus bet. So that may have been we're sorry, maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen anything from TAB yet, but I'll look into it. But we're going to talk about that game a lot, I'm sure. So while we're live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio and Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of round 18 matches. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you guys as well as questions we've prepared for each other. We'll then preview round 19 and discuss who we're picking before ending the night with a recap of the Super League. So just remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we may as well jump straight into it, Richie.
Yep, sounds good.
So the first slide I had was all about Graham Ellerslie, but there was a bit of an update on the Las Vegas stuff, so I decided to add that in. You don't have that on your notes, but I've got it all here. So the NRL have officially confirmed what we discussed, I think it was not last week, the week before, but there's actually going to be 4 matches in Vegas next year. So I've got the rundown. The first game is a Super League game of Wigan versus Warrington, which is 8:30 in the morning Australian time. Then it's the Raiders versus the Warriors at 11 o'clock Australian time. Then after that, we've got the Australian Jillaroos versus the England women's team at 1 o'clock Australian time, before the final game at 3:30 Australian time, Panthers Sharks. So we had heard rumours about Super League coming in for a game, but it's all been announced. I didn't know that they were going to bring an international game. What do you think of the matchups?
I like the matchups. I like sorry, Simon, but I like the Raiders as a matchup for the Warriors. It's definitely a little bit more favourable than playing the Panthers. I'm not sure about the...
I feel like the Raiders is probably saying the same thing about us.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, yeah, everyone's happy all around there, I'm sure. But I'm not sure about the time slots and us slotting in before the female international game. I would rather have us had a more of a prime time slot. I'm sure there's a reason why they've done that, though.
Yeah, and I didn't put New Zealand times because I haven't put it down yet, and I don't know at that time of the year how the time zones work. So I'm assuming it's just 2 hours, so it'd be a big day for all of us, really. It'd be 10:30 in the morning, and like 1, then 3, and then like 5:30. But yeah, there's a lot of comments about 4 days, or 4 games in a day, and would it be better to split it over 2 days? Yeah, I think you could have had like Wigan and or like the Warriors, day 1, and then the women game and the Panthers game second. But perhaps they're worried about getting fans there 2 days in a row.
Yeah, I'd say so.
How expensive it might be to book that stadium for 2 days.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure that's a factor.
Paul's given us a time converter. You can do that, Paul. I'm not good with numbers, mate. I'll be watching, though. I posed a question to you and Ruin Hammer, a bit tongue-in-cheek, but World Club Challenge. There is a high likelihood that it could be Wigan versus Panthers, and it was like a week before the Vegas games, I think, last year. So it'd be interesting to see if they're playing and then a week later they're all going to Las Vegas. Could be a hell of a lot of traveling for one of those sides, because I assume they'd probably bring it to Australia but I did hear talks about they always wanted the World Club Challenge in the UK to try to
Yeah.
help build the game there. So I'm not sure if they're just going to say we're not doing World Club Challenge, or potentially, do you think it could be something they bring into the Vegas fixture, where one of the 4 games, if they're going to keep going with 4 games, one of the 4 games is actually the World Club Challenge?
Not this time around, clearly, because it's all
No.
scheduled. But going forward, yeah, perhaps.
I suppose that would be a bit of a tall order, Paul, not knowing who 2 of the teams are going to be until the finals are done.
Yeah, true. But so 9 hours. They expect people to sit in the stadium for at least 9 hours of league. That's just nuts. I'm sorry, but only 4 games in one day. Great for the people on TV. That's fine, but for people actually live in the stadium, my God, that's a at least a couple of those games are going to have basically empty stadiums, right? Because there's people aren't going to sit there for 9 hours.
Yeah, tragics like myself would probably be able to stomach 4 games, but it did. When I saw the lineup, it did make me kind of not as sad that I'm not going to make the trip. It's like I could easily sit at home on the couch and watch all of that. Be a hell of a lot cheaper too.
Yeah, look, Hong Kong Sevens, where it's a booze up and it's a party, it kind of works. But for anything else, that length of time, maybe a test match, right? You wander away, you have a picnic lunch, you come back again. But yeah, it's crazy. It really is.
There you go. You just answered it. Just turn it to a booze up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to seeing how it goes, and enjoy it at the comfort of my own home. I had some mates trying to talk me into going because the Vegas days, 12 days before my 40th birthday. And they're like, you can make it a birthday trip. Like, if they're willing to pay for me to go, I'll happily do it. But they said no, so that is. But anything else you want to add? Christopher actually made a good point. Las Vegas has so many distractions. Yeah, I could see myself going there, watching the Warriors game, and then ending up in the casinos the rest of the time.
I could not only see myself, I could guarantee that would happen.
Yeah. So it's probably more dangerous for me. So I'll stay home. But yeah, anything else you want to add before we move on to the big topic of the news?
No, we can move on.
Rip the Band-Aid off. Graham Ellersly's press conference. There were some doozies. I'll go through them and then we'll just discuss it. So first, he cleared Titan Kino Kinney for leading with his feet in a tackle, advising that because there was no harm to the attacking player, it was okay, which seems like a dangerous thing to advise because that means any player could do it now. And it's a 180 on his explanation.
Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Yep, yeah, 100%. So,
Roger, yeah.
So Roger's one had the potential to go wrong, but this one did also, but there was no harm, so it's okay. Yeah.
I feel like he needs to write these things down so he doesn't counteract himself in them. The next one was even more entertaining. I was giving you and Ruin Hammer a play-by-play as I was watching it on Monday. But there was a moment in the Sharks-Titans game where Ziggy, the referee, got the tackle count wrong and gave a 4 tackle set instead of 5. Ellerslie actually played the audio, which didn't really make it better. But Ziggy did get the count right. But for some reason that Ziggy could not explain to Graham, he put his hand up signaling last tackle on the 4th tackle, even though he said 4th tackle. And Ellerslie said that the players should have been listening to what the ref was saying instead of just looking at the hand signal, which seems like the biggest cop-out I've ever seen in my life.
That's a massive cop-out.
What's the point of the hand signal then? That's what they can all see. How the winger supposed to bloody hear him saying something in a noisy stadium? What a bunch of bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the big one, which we're probably all waiting to talk about, he discussed the Jamin Simon hit on Tamati Martin in the Warriors Bulldogs game, and he said there were not a lot of camera angles to assist the decision, despite constantly talking about the millions of dollars they invested in that the bunker has many more camera angles than we do watching at home. But he said the bunker spent the review time trying to deem if it was a high tackle and didn't take into consideration that it was late and ran out of time. The match review committee later deemed it was a late hit, which is why Salmon's now received a ban. And he did concede that a penalty should have been awarded and that it was an unacceptable miss from his team. Unacceptable, yet we still sit here and accept it. And I discussed with you guys earlier about the referees mentioned in this. So Ziggy is now a touch judge this week. What's his name? Who was our ref? Butler. Butler is not reffing at all.
Butler was the on-field ref.
And Adam G, who was the bunker in the Bulldogs game, has now
been promoted.
He's been promoted to reffing a game this week. So it's unacceptable and a big miss from the team, yet he hasn't punished the bunker official.
I was going to say, well, look, you can't blame the on-pitch guys.
No, I'm not blaming.
No, definitely not.
So the fact that the on-pitch guys got the assistant ref is now a ref is irrelevant. It's the bunker people that are the ones that are a bit of a joke in this situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I was watching live and I saw the replay and I saw it. I'm okay to agree with them that it wasn't high. It was hard to tell, but it was definitely late. And you could argue he was also in an offside position as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you take on it?
Where he said they used up all their time looking at if it was high. Mate, I saw that live and thought, saw one replay and then came to the conclusion that it was borderline high, definitely late penalty. I am biased. I'll happily admit that, but I think even if I didn't have a horse in the race, I would have come to the same conclusion. Given on what we've seen ruled this year, we've seen head-on-heads penalised this year. Taylor May, Reece Walsh, and it was late. There's been so many instances of this year, except in that moment where the game was on the line, and I just feel like Adam G was a bit cowardly to pull trigger and be the deciding factor in the game.
Yeah, and like Jacko said, he doesn't blame the on-field ref, and he thought Butler was fair. I don't rate Butler at the best of times, but yeah, this wasn't his fault. This was a call that the bunker had the opportunity to make and drop the ball. I think they really didn't want themselves to be in the media about making a call that could have potentially decided the game. But
well, that backfired.
That backfired anyway. So, yeah. It's just it got a lot of media coverage, I must say. A lot of them saying potentially that loss could be what decides the Warriors season and all that.
Well, it could.
Which it could, yeah. I don't want to go down that road just yet. I'm still trying to live in an optimist world. But
no, I'm sorry, but if you're blaming one game when you've been top four, was it last year? Sorry, but you can't put your season down to one game.
Well, we need to win every game we can, Paul, and we had a penalty with 7 minutes to go.
Your previous losses have decided this season rather than just this one game.
Well, yeah, you could say that if they don't make it and they won that game, but now we've got this in our pocket, Paul.
If we miss by 1 point, which we could because we've had the draw. If we miss by 1 point, we've lost too many games then, and there's a lot of what ifs, but it'll piss every Warriors fan off royally. I guarantee it. Yeah.
I just want to see their officials do their job properly so you don't give fans an excuse. Because, we're fans. Of course, we're going to take the excuse if they give it to us. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I still think they can go on a run. There's some very winnable games coming up. So, but I know I'm losing fans in that optimism train that I'm in.
Yeah, there's a couple of losable ones in there too. Normally we lose the winnable ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll leave it there and move on to the rest. Jason Riles has been announced as the Eels coach on a 4-year deal starting from next year. He kind of seemed like one of two that were the favourites, and obviously answered everything right. And he couldn't keep waiting for Bellyache to retire, so it's good to see him get his chance while he had it. But yeah, you happy with the announcement? It's going to be a tough job for him to hit the ground running.
I think Parramatta fans will be happy. Yeah, given how they're performing with a caretaker coach with doesn't exactly have the greatest proven record of being a first grade head coach. So yeah, it's positive for the Eels and their supporters.
Yeah, I just look forward to seeing him have a go. He's been waiting in the wings. It felt like his name was mentioned in almost every job that was coming up. So he's got his chance, and we'll see how they go. And Jacko said the Eels players don't look overly excited about Riles. Yeah, but half of them were going on about they'd like to see Trent Barrett keep it, and that is career suicide for all of those players because he's the worst coach there's ever been. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but we'll move on. The Panthers have released Taylor May. We've talked about it the last few weeks. It's now official. He's now a free agent and is available for anyone to sign. There has been some interest in the UK with Hull KR potentially interested in picking him up because his brother already plays there, and they reckon they could sort him out. I guess everyone will probably wait and see what happens in March, unless they're deciding to bite the bullet, sign him now, bring him over, and what happens in March happens. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good move for the Panthers to get him just out of there, and we'll see what happens. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I think you're right, Brad. It's the waters there around Taylor May are getting pretty murky. So sometimes you better just cut your losses, and maybe Taylor can boot off to the UK and make salvage something of a career, build himself back up, work on himself as a person, and I'm sure he'll go there and kill it. The level of footy over there will be right up his alley.
Yeah. And if everything gets cleared in March and he shows that he's kind of cleaned his act up a bit, someone in the NRL will pick him up. But yeah, and Jacko said the Panthers paid him out, and being a nosy old fart, he'd love to know how much. Yeah, I'm sure it was well worth his time to get the release. I'm sure they would have paid him whatever they could just to make sure it was all done and dusted. But yeah, we'll see what happens with him, and we'll move on. Daniel Saifidi, we talked about him last week. He's been told he's free to go from the Knights, and apparently the Dragons have met with him and are the apparent favourites to sign him. Would be a good signing for the Dragons. Probably a terrible career decision for poor old Saifidi going to the Dragons, but it is what it is. What do you reckon?
I actually think it would be a decent fit for player and club. He'll add good depth to their middles, and I think Flanagan might just get something out of him. If he can get something of his old form that made him a rep player out of him, then it's just another nice layer onto what the Dragons have produced this year. They look like a club that's building way better than what we expected of them, Brad. So I think it'd be a nice fit.
Early ripe, early rotten, mate. Ouch. So we'll keep going with the Knights a little bit. The Daily Telegraph came out and reported that the Knights want to extend Leo Thompson's contract past 2025, but they can't right now due to salary cap issues. Part of the reason why they're letting Daniel potentially leave. And rival teams are keeping an eye on the situation. And I've said it for a long time. I'd really love to see him come home. And I know he developed a good relationship with James Fisher-Harris in Kiwis camp. I'd like James to just give him a call and say, come on, mate. Come be my buddy in the Warriors. But I think once they can get Saifidi off the books, I think they'll use some of that money to extend him.
Well, yeah, you would think that would be the case rather than them letting go of all their middles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm like you. Ideal situation, it would be cool if he came here. Just add to our pack. Our pack's travelling really nicely, but we do lose Adam Fanor-Blake. But if he was thrown in the mix along with Fisher Harris and Barnett, and then all our young bucks coming through, definitely soften that Adam Fanor-Blake loss.
Definitely.
But it's a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get news from the Knights about him extending once they've cleared a couple of players off their books. And Jacko said Flanagan can coach. He's got the Dragons on the right path. Just accept it, Brad. No, I can't.
He never will accept.
Yeah. I'll die on this hill.
They could make a prelim and he'd be calling them the worst team in the league.
Make the grand final and win it, and I'll be like, worst year ever. But no, in all seriousness though, yeah, Flano knows what he's doing, and he's getting it out of those players. I just want to see what happens when Lomax is gone, and you're getting a lot of guys in the middle. Getting Damien Cook and potentially Saifidi, but they need some more help out on those edges and the backs if Lomax is going. They've got some talented youngsters, so I'm sure they'll do all right, but I want to keep putting the jinx on them as long as I can. We'll move on to Billy Slater, mate. He's explained his reasoning about not selecting David Fifita for Queensland Game 3, saying that Fifita didn't have a good preseason and is still working back to the standards he set last year. Seems like a strange reason when he's picked Kurt Capewell, who is a Warrior.
And Ponga.
I love him to bits, and Ponga. But you could argue Capewell's had a more disappointing season to date than David Fifita. So I can get you saying, like, I just don't... Like, his argument for Capewell in that is that they've done it for him in the past, where I feel like Fifita could be used in that same type of category. And we've got the Origin teams up. We may as well talk about that too. So your thoughts on Fifita before we go into the Origin teams?
I feel like there has to be a little bit more to it. Surely. I really don't feel like his form this year has been as bad as what Billy Slater's making out. And in fact, there's been games where he's been quite damaging. Yeah, I don't know. I'm baffled by it. He'd be in my team if I was selecting Queensland, but I'm not, so...
Yeah, I would. I'm looking at that team we got there. We may as well go through the team. So I'll go through Queensland first, and then I'll say who I'd replace Fifita with. We've got Reece Walsh at fullback, Selwyn Cobbo and Valentine Holmes on the wings, Dane Gagai and the Hammer in the centres, Tom Dearden, DCE in the halves, Ruben Cotter, Ben Hunt, Lindsay Collins front row, Kurt Capewell and Jeremiah Nanai in the second row, and Patrick Carrigan at lock. And then we've got Harry Grant, Phil Tueka, Felice Kafusi, Kalen Ponga, Trent Luero, Brendan Piakora, and Reid Mahoney. Well, Mahoney. I keep calling him Mahoney. There has been noise in the camp that Harry Grant may not make it, and that Reid will replace him if he's not fit. But yeah, Capewell, Kafusi, two players I would easily swap with David Fifita.
We'll swap one of them, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're not going to lose both.
The other thing I can, the one thing I can think of is Billy. Maybe Billy likes a certain number of real workhorses in his pack, and he's already got Jeremiah Nanai, who's sort of probably in the same sort of ilk as Fifita, more of an attacking sort of dynamo. Maybe he doesn't want that on both sides. That's the only reasoning I can come up with, or there's something more to it. But I'd definitely swap one of those guys, Capewell or Felice Kafusi. Have one of them starting maybe, and then Fafita off the bench.
Yeah, if they lose next Wednesday, that's going to be the biggest thing they're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Wait, what would have happened if Fafita was there? But you want to run down your New South Wales team?
Absolutely. Fullback Dylan Edwards, the wings Brian To'o, Zach Lomax, the centres Stephen Crichton and Bradman Best comes in for the injured Latrell Mitchell. Halves Jerome Luai, Mitchell Moses. Forward pack Jake Trebojevic, Reece Robson, Payne Haas, Liam Martin, Angus Crichton, Cam Murray. And the interchange bench Connor Watson, Isaiah Yeo, Mitch Barnett comes into the game day 17 this time round. And Spencer Lenu. I like it. Very strong.
They did name the extended, but they didn't have it on the picture. But I think that's a very good team. And
yes.
It's great to see Mitch Barnett get that upgrade from 18th man into the actual 17. I think it's well deserved.
Massively deserved. I think we were talking about it during the week that he's got to be a shoo-in for Simon Mannering medal winner this year. I don't see anyone else taking that off him, and there's still a number of weeks to go. But he'd be one of the better. Yeah, true. But he'd be one of the better forwards running around in the game this year. I feel like he's been given at least a 7, 8 out of 10 every week. At the lowest 7 out of 10.
Yeah, and Jacko said Marnie could make watching Origin really good again. With his niggle, it'll be the forward pack isn't as intimidating for Queensland, so I think he would, because he kind of dropped his nuts against the Warriors. There was no niggle at all when you got Murata and AFB on the other side. He kept all that niggle away. But it should be good. I won't ask you who you think's going to win until next week. That was a good team. And before we move into signings, I had one extra bit that I threw in, mate, that I wanted to surprise you with. Dean Richie, old Bulldog, from the Daily Telegraph, has spoken out about Golden Point. We had 2 in the weekend. He's saying, I've got his actual quote here. He said, Golden Point as we know it must be overhauled. What I saw last weekend was, to be frank, quite cruel. Watching the courageous Warriors lose via an 88th minute field goal, Golden Point field goal after busting their asses with just 14 fit players, proved that Golden Point must be reconstructed. Golden Point is for fans, broadcasters and viewers, not the players. And he suggested that a win in regular time should get 4 points, and in Golden Point the winner gets 3 and the loser gets 1. And since we started the show, I've always been of the opinion that we're not union. We don't give you points for losing. So I don't agree with it. I don't care about the whole, it sucks. I'm a Warriors fan. We didn't get a point after that, but them's the big.
Technically, you didn't lose by the end of regular time. If you put a bet on a draw at the TAB, you'd get paid out.
Yeah.
To me, I think you should both get 1 point at the end of the regular time, and then you pay. Then you play for the Golden Point. You get 1 more for winning that. But
you're just too union, Paul. Next, you'll be saying if you score 4 tries and you lose by 30, we'll still give you a point. No. What do you reckon? I know I'm a bit more tougher on it, but what do you reckon, Richie?
Yeah, I've heard all sorts of people speaking out about it this week. I think Den and Kemp and those guys talking about it. They prefer it to be golden try. I don't know. I actually don't mind it. It's either keep it as it is or just scrap it all together and have draws for me.
Yeah, I'm happy with what it is. Golden try would be interesting. A team like the Bulldogs would really struggle because they don't know how to do tries at the best of times right now. But yeah, and Jacko said a draw's a draw for 100 years, and now we've got a circus called Golden Point. I'm more than happy for them to say from now on there are no golden points until finals, when we need a winner to go further, and then you just make it draws. I'm happy with that, but changing how many points people get, I think, is just going too far. So yeah, either keep it how it is or go back to draws. But yeah, anything else you want to add on that before we go on?
Yeah, I don't mind it actually. Just a draw during regular season and then during finals, maybe not even golden point. It's just extra time. Then you get rid of
extra time
bunkers.
Extra time.
Then you get rid of
decision.
Yeah, you get rid of refs and bunkers being too cowardly to make decisions and put the whistle away. You know, then it's just extra time and you just play on until the end of that period.
Yeah, because I saw some people complaining about one of Chanel Harris-Tavita's field goal attempts. Reed Marnie wasn't square at marker, and that would have been a penalty in a normal situation. But because it was golden point, that didn't happen because you put the whistle away. But it's neither here or there.
But the thing is, would that have happened from us on their field goal attempts too? Because I'm pretty sure every team does that.
Yeah, exactly. But you do it because you know you're going to get away with it.
Mm.
But yeah, that was it I had for the news. So you can go into signings. Basically, all just extensions, mate. Jack DeBellin's extended for a year with the Dragons. Matthew, how do you say his name? Is it Fagai? Fengai. He is extended with the Dragons till the end of 2026. Tyson Gamble is extended till the end of 2026 with the Knights. So they had Gamble money, but they didn't have Thompson money. So, and as we mentioned last week, Chad Townsend has signed a 1-year deal with the Roosters. And it hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but the Warriors have been rumoured to have re-signed Leka Halasima until the end of 2027.
Very good.
Judging by the fact that they let him make his debut last week, I think that is it. If he was off contract, you're probably not going to let him go out there and do what he did, knowing that another team could go in and swoop him. So no official announcement from them yet, but it sounded like a signed deal. But anything you want to add to those? Nothing really big.
It'll be official 10 p.m. tonight after we log off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I forgot to add it on here, but Go Media Stadium has announced that they've extended the naming rights for another 4 years, and they're also installing a new screen. So
is that what that news was?
Yeah, they were going on about there's going to be news.
One at either end, north and south?
Yeah, so there's going to be a sign installed in the southern end in time for the new football team, because the football team is going to be playing out of Mount
the new A-League team.
We could ask Paul, I guess, how come there's all these bloody teams in Auckland now and they all refuse to play in that cemetery called Eden Park?
Because
it's too big.
A, it's too big, and B, it costs too much. At the end of the day, because it's a big stadium, you get bigger charges to use it.
I want them all out of my bloody home, mate. I just want them gone.
They're not welcome.
They're not welcome at my stadium. But yeah, so we'll move on then to injuries because there's shitloads of them, mate. I don't even think I've got all of them. Junior Borlo from the Eels got a Liz Frank injury in his right foot. He is out for between 8 to 10 weeks, which is at this time of year pretty much most of the season done.
Season done.
Big loss for the Eels, but they're not really tracking well. So it's probably better for him to just tie it up and wait till next year. Broncos, Jock Madden did his hamstring. He's out for around 4 weeks.
Yep.
Which is a big loss when you consider they're still waiting for Reynolds to come back. Nelson Asafa-Solomona from the Storm, he also did his hamstring. There's no return date for him at the moment. He might be back as soon as after the bye. So he might be okay. Nico Hines, I haven't got the official word. They said an ankle injury. Some people have been saying it's a broken leg.
Yeah.
But it sounds like his season is done. Big loss for the Sharks, especially when they're really trying to hold on to their top 4 spot. And potentially, the way they're going, they could even slide all the way out of the 8.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, and I'm stealing Paul's job. Sorry. Jacko mentioned SJ's meant to be making an announcement on his future tomorrow. Yeah, he hasn't really said if it's on his future or if it's on future endeavors. The video I saw, he was showing like a studio. We'll definitely talk about it on the show next week once we actually know what it is. There's a lot of rumors circling that he may have decided that this year is it and he's done, but that's pure speculation on my part. He doesn't return my calls, so I don't know. But yeah, we'll go back to injuries, mate. Latrell Mitchell from the Rabbits, he also did a Liz Frank injury. They say it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks for him. Big loss for the Rabbits and for New South Wales. Then Bulldogs, we've got 3. Ryan Sutton in New South Wales Cup. He tore his patella tendon and is out for the season. Blake Taff, 8 weeks for a syndesmosis injury. And then Jermaine Salmon fractured his jaw on that late hit that he did. And will be out for 6 weeks. Yeah. Karma. And then the last ones, I got 4 from the Warriors, mate. We got Tohu Harris, wrist injury with no return date. There have been rumours that it could be the end of the year for him now. Chance Nickel-Klokstad out with a calf injury, no return date as of yet. Marcelo Montoya did a groin, no return date as of yet. And then Dallin had a Category 1 HIA, 10-day stand down. He will be back for the next round against the Raiders. So a lot of injuries there. I guess you might want to say something about the Warriors once.
Yeah. Find out who's strength and conditioning coach and fire him.
Yeah.
It's just beyond a joke now.
Yeah. I when I did that tour of the facilities with Ruin Hammer, they showed like their rehab room, and that room is far too small for the amount of people they have in it right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully they all come back sooner rather than later. But yeah, we'll move on to Naughty Boys. We only got 3. So Jared Wawerea-Hargreaves, as is his nature in his big game celebrating his record, he's been done with a 4-match ban. It could have been 3 if he pleaded guilty. They decided to fight it. I think they were trying to use the ploy on look at, the amount of games he's played for the Roosters now. The judiciary did not care. Said, no, mate, you're out for a month. Salmon, as we already mentioned from the Bulldogs, he's out for 6 weeks with the broken jaw, but 2 of them are going to be a ban for that dangerous tackle. It's interesting because Annesley said that they charged him for the late tackle, but dangerous contact makes me think it's more about the high, but I guess that's called a dangerous high contact.
Yeah, I think dangerous contact can include late hits as well.
Late hits, yeah. So he's out for 2, and then for the Sharks, Talakai is out. He did a grade 2 careless high tackle, 1 match. So yeah, it makes their life a little bit harder for the Sharks. No Hines, no Talakai. But yeah, anything you want to add to the Naughty Boys? I feel for Jared. I don't think it was worth 4.
4 seems on the extreme side. It didn't seem too different from what Talakai did.
Yeah.
Call me crazy. I don't know.
It's just his history, I think.
Yeah, it has to be. But yeah, other than that, I think they're all suspendable. Yeah.
Is what? He played 307 games for the Roosters so far? It'd be interesting to add up how many more he would have played if he didn't get all these suspensions all the time.
Oh, I heard Cooper Cronk talking about it. I think it was like about a season's worth of footy matches.
Yeah.
That's why he's still playing, so he's out of rest. Otherwise he'd be injured.
Yeah. See, the evergreen, because he gets to have a couple of months off every year. So yeah, that's it for all the news. I tried to keep it as short because I knew there was going to be a lot. So Jacko said about 30 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he'd be on almost 350 if he had kept his nose clean.
But what good front rower would is meant to keep their nose clean all of the time?
Never been suspended, mate. Never. So,
it's only because he was never on any high enough level to get videoed.
Yeah.
True. That is a good point. So we'll move on to the round now, starting with the Rabbits defeating the Eels 32-16 on Thursday.
Yeah, 6 tries to 3 in this one for the Rabbitohs. Jacob Gagai had 2. Jack Whiten had 2. Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell for the Eels. Blaze Talangi, Regan Campbell-Gillard and Bryce Cartwright.
Yeah, solid and steady game for the Rabbits here. Wasn't the prettiest at times with them making a lot of errors and giving away a lot of penalties. But their attack looked good in patches, which allowed them to control the contest. They've improved a lot since their shopping start of the season. Coincidentally, they started improving when they moved Jack Whiten into the halves. Take for that what you will, but still a lot for them to work on. But a final spot is now not entirely out of the realms of possibility, which was something many weeks ago I said there's no hope for them. But that's how tight the ladder is right now. But your take on the Rabbits?
I thought it was another good showing from them. They looked to have well and truly dug themselves out of the hole they were in, which had them looking like a true wooden spoon contender when Demetrio was coaching.
Yeah.
Their attack looks more potent, like you say, since they've moved White into the closer to the action, and they look to be playing for each other. You're right, Brad. It's not out of the realms of possibility. It's a little bit harder now. They lose Latrell with that Liz Frank injury, but yeah, they're definitely night and day from where they were to start the season.
Yeah, Jacko mentioned that Latrell's out, Bunnies are done. Yeah, it's hard to argue, to be honest. I feel like he's kind of their live wire, but your take on the Eels?
Rinse and repeat, really. Just more of the same. They look so far off where they should be with the roster they have, and Jason Riles can't come soon enough.
Yeah, I kind of see the same. They're just continuing to struggle. They're not clicking with the ball in hand. They made 15 errors in this game, and they could just never get into the contest at all. Scored a few tries to make the score a bit more flattering, but a real disappointing effort from the last place slide. And as you said, Jason Riles has a lot of work to do next season to clean up the mess that Trent Barrett's leaving him. Paul said Latrell led the fantasy points with 70. You went with Latrell?
Yeah, I went with fantasy.
Yeah, I went with him too. I knew he was top of the fantasy, so I grabbed some stats. He's got he had 2 try assists, 3 line break assists, 1 line break himself, and 1 try. So it was another good game. Last game was even for a while.
And 1 Liz Frank injury.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the first game on Friday, and the game that killed our multi, only on the second day of the round. The Titans defeating the Sharks 2016.
As so often happens, it dies out early. This one was 3 tries apiece for the Titans, Kieran Foran, Chris Randall, and Keenan Palacia. For the Sharks, Braden Trindle, Daniel Atkinson, Nico Hines.
Yeah, Titans came into this match as the underdogs, but they started strong and never looked back. They left a few scoring opportunities on the table, but showed some grit on defence, which has been an aspect of their game that's improved the past few weeks. I don't see them reaching the top 8, but I think they're one of those teams that are going to throw spanners in the work for teams desperate to either stay in the 8 or make it into the 8 as the season winds to a close. But your take on the Titans?
They've been very up and down this year, mostly down, but when they've been on, they've looked good. And the Titans that actually know how to play footy turned up in this one, and they played spoilers, picking up a win over a top 8 team. Foran was at his experience best and showed he still has life left in those legs, which we know now they'll go around again another year.
Yeah, I forgot to add that he ended another year.
Yeah.
Look at when the game finished, because look, 12, leading 0-12 at half time, so a really good first half, and sort of hung on in the second half, which they lost 16-8. So the Sharks coming back in that second half by the looks of things.
Titans are always down for a fade or two in the second half, Paul. It's all about banking those points in the first half for them. But yeah, your take on the Sharks?
Seemingly there's a decline happening there at the Sharks, and now they'll be without their star playmaker for the foreseeable future. This was a season that showed so much promise. They need to get it back on track as soon as possible, Because again, like a very underwhelming start to a game, leaving themselves with too much to chase. It's not the first time this year, and it's happened again.
I hate the Sharks, mate. They suckered me in earlier on this year. I was like, they've got everything on track. They could actually be a genuine threat, and now that they just keep falling, it's a fall from grace. This was an easy layup match for them, and they failed on all fronts. They didn't show up until the second half, as Paul mentioned, and then only decided to play in the final 20, really. If they'd started that run a bit earlier, they could have stolen it at the death. But it wasn't to be. Need their big names to shine, but they failed in that. They fumbled. May have done enough earlier in the year to secure a final spot, but they seem destined to lose that highly desired top 4 position. And as I said a bit earlier, potentially they might even fall completely out of the 8 if they keep losing like this. Your player to stand out?
I put Foz. He's been really good.
I did the same.
Really good for them. Yeah.
He's been, I think Jacko mentioned it earlier about he's been outstanding this year. He's really wound back the clock. He's kind of having the season that Sean Johnson had last year, where you're kind of like, he may have done his dash. He's a bit long in the tooth now, but he's found something. Very happy with that. We'll move on to the final game on Friday. Panthers defeating the Broncos 14-6.
Yeah. I like that result. 3 tries to 1 for the Panthers. Jack Cole, Brian To'o, Mitch Kenny. Broncos, Reece Walsh. Sorry, everyone. I'm such a Broncos hater. Unapologetically.
We've got to be unbiased on this show. No hating a team for no reason, okay?
They're my Dragons, mate. They're my Dragons.
So Panthers didn't put on a dominant performance here, judging by the scoreboard. But they starved the Broncos of possession and territory and just took the chances when they were on offer. A bit more clunky than we've come to expect from them in the past, but it was a solid game nonetheless. James Fisher-Harris looks strong and has me excited to see him in a Warriors jersey next year. They did what needed to be done. Your take on the Panthers?
Again, I think the teams are trailing 6-4 at half time, but then shut out the Broncos in the second half. Stepped up after half time.
Yes, they do. Yeah, I'm back to winning ways this week. Not a performance that will strike fear into the competition, but they do what's required to pick up the win. And again, once Cleary comes back and they gel, I feel like the Juggernaut will show itself again. Approaching finals time, they know how to time their run. So
yeah. And your take on the Bronx?
I feel like they were far better in the effort areas this week with some of their troops back from what they showed against us, but the past few weeks they looked a bit more committed, but still lacking the class of Reynolds to show them the way. He's the key, I feel like, to that team. He unlocks everything and guides them around. So without him, they really struggle. Without him, they've got a real fight on their hands for the rest of the season now. I know he's meant to come back. I haven't heard. Have you heard any further update about?
It's still meant to be in like round 22 or something, I think. 22 or 23.
Yeah.
I think I said it last week. They're done.
Yeah.
I don't see them coming in, which goes to the polar opposite to me saying the Warriors still have a chance when they're above us on the ladder. But they just continue to struggle without Adam Reynolds. I've been saying it feels like since his first game away injured. The return of Reece Walsh did give them a bit of spark, but they lacked the direction. And then the Panthers playing that territory game, they just struggled to get themselves in scoring positions. Add to that the high errors and poor defense. I don't want to rule them out because every time I've ruled a team out, I get proven wrong. But they just don't have a lot going for them right now if they're going to return to finals. And Jack has said Reynolds is rumoured to come back early, but had a setback. Mark Roberts said Panthers having second-year syndrome and not having Webster as their assistant, but they're still managing to scrape through. They do it like they did it last year. There was a few real tight games where they just scraped through, and it was like, maybe they've lost their sheen, and then they, as you said, they timed their run and they're right back into it. And I think Paul said Reece Walsh led with fantasy points, and Lindsay Smith top for the Panthers. Who'd you pick?
Lindsay Smith.
You coward.
No, he was genuinely very good.
He was.
Yeah, he was. So I went with Lindsay Smith. How about you?
I went with Dylan Edwards because when in doubt, you pick a fullback. So, I thought Dylan Edwards did a lot. There was a lot of people talking about him and like how Teddy's been going. Did he really deserve to get the New South Wales spot again? And he didn't blow anyone off the park here, but I thought he didn't do anything to make you say, nah, he needs to be dropped. So I thought it was a solid enough game.
I'm surprised you didn't pick Lindsay Smith, Brad. Being a front rower, the kick he put through to set up Tor's try from a middle forward, just pure filth.
It's just a standard thing you should see from a prop, mate. That's just what we do. Most accurate kickers in any team. They're just never allowed to prove it. So we'll move on to the first game on Saturday, mate. The Bulldogs defeating the Warriors 13-12.
Yeah, 2 tries apiece for the Doggies, Bronson Sherry and Viliami Kikau. For the Waz, Dylan Martinez-Lesniak, Marcelo Montoya, both wingers.
And Paul said smart money on the boys picking their star player from the losing team in this game. Did I send you the notes or something, mate? You're reading it properly. Another golden point win for the Bulldogs. That's 2 in a row for them. They defended well, which has been their bread and butter all season. And that's all I can really praise, to be honest. They were not great on attack with their tries coming from an intercept and a kick. Should have piled on the points on the Warriors when they had to move forwards into the back 5. But they failed to put the foot down. As soon as we had lost the back 3, I expected 2 or 3 tries, bang, bang, bang from the Bulldogs, but it just didn't happen. Lucky to escape with the win here, but they're still undefeated at home, as Paul said. Your take on the Bulldogs?
It's going to sound exactly the same as yours, and I didn't even read yours, but I feel like we chat about the Warriors games enough in the group chat that we almost form the same opinion. I thought the best part of the performance from the Dogs was their gritty defense. I honestly expected them to put us to the sword once we lost our back 3, but their attack didn't seem to be hitting great heights with 1 try from an intercept and 1 try from a bomb. Like you said, credit to them though, they picked up the 2 points. Not going to give any more to them other than that.
Yeah, before I ask you about the Warriors, Mark Roberts said it's good to hear DWZ and Montoya will be right to go for round 20. So that's an update. Well, I didn't know that. That might have come out today. So, yeah, they hopefully are back for round 20, which kind of throws my question you out of the whack.
Well, I was counting Montoya out, but that's good if he's good to go.
All right, well, DWZ, I said, would be back.
Him for sure, because he was just... head knock, 11-day stand down.
Your take on the Warriors?
Very brave from the Warriors in the face of a ton of adversity. Obviously losing the whole back 3 to injury throughout the game, having to shift forwards out and fill those positions. So our lineup was incredibly makeshift with pretty much nothing left on the bench. I feel like the forwards stood up. And there was a brilliant debut from young Halasima. Very impressive. Nearly got what could have been the game winner. I really like what I saw out of him. Well, my main critique would be aimed at our kicking game, which I thought was poor. A bunch of 7 tackle sets we just handed to them through lack of accuracy from our kicking game. But I feel like we deserved a draw at the very least from the effort we put in. But it was a cracking game all the same.
Yeah, and Paul, you want to come and kick us while we're down?
No, I was going to say, what were the weather conditions like? We had 6 missed field goal, drop goals until he got the one that actually won it. It's 7 attempts, but 1 went over.
I think the weather was pretty good over there, wasn't it? It was just, the thing there, Matt Burton's a myth when it comes to the clutch field goals. He gets them when they count, but yeah, he was 1 from 4. He was just kicking them all. Admittedly, a couple of them were really close, but
He was 1 for 4 and Warriors and 1 for 3. I mean, it was no one seemed to be able to hit the the ball.
our field goal guy is injured at the moment, Paul. So
Yeah, he's out one and only.
in that same situation, if Sean was there, it's a 1-2 bang, and then he does it. That's just what Sean does. But yeah, real proud of the Warriors here. They did face a lot of adversity, losing their back three and having a few dodgy calls go against them. Still had a few chances to nab this win, but as you said, the halves just didn't have the best showing. There was a couple they kicked out on the full. The penalty they got where they didn't kick it out on the full. So the one they were meant to get over the full, they couldn't do. And yeah, just a few bad choices. Chanel popping up in my head, the no-look pass to an open man on the wing, which he didn't need to do. And yeah, the Pack did well. They dominated the contest. And it could be one of those games they regret losing at the end of the season, which we've got a handful of those now. But yeah, huge shout out to Leka Halasima for his debut and what was an impressive showing. I said it in my review that I wrote on Monday that we know what Webby's like. He probably was looking at giving him maybe 10 minutes max. He ended up playing a lot, and he went from being playing in the middle to being a centre, which is a tall order in your debut when you're a forward, but it's very impressive. I'm hoping we see a few more games out of him this year, maybe, depending on how injuries go. We'll see. But yeah, very happy. And yeah, Mitch Barnett led fantasy points with a massive 110. Josh Curran was the highest from the Bulldogs with 76. Who'd you go with, mate?
It had to be Barnett. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was over 200 metres, 50-something odd tackles with 2 misses, 5 offloads. He did it all, and like Jacko was saying earlier, has become a real leader. No coincidence the game that he was out through Origin duty, or we conceded 6. We lost by 60. Yeah,
just why I want to see him back up this week.
Massively. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I went with him as well. I watched it with the missus, mate, and he is her favourite player. So I was getting a play-by-play on everything he was doing, even when he wasn't involved in the ball or tackling area, just like, oh, there he is there. And it was fantastic. There was a interview he did in regards to Origin, and that he talked about he needed to grow up as a person, and he wasn't able to do that with Newcastle, which is why he had to go away, which is kind of what we talked about last week. About my biggest issue with him being signed was he was always a firecracker that was going to do something stupid. And a player like that coming to the Warriors means he would spend all his time suspended because they get punished unfairly. And he hasn't been, I don't think he's had a single suspension since he's been here, touch wood.
Yeah.
He seems to have really sorted that stuff out without taking away his being aggressive. So he's found the right balance. So yeah, very, very happy to see him go well, and really need him against the Raiders next week.
Yep.
Move on to the next game on Tuesday. The Storm defeating the Tigers 40-28.
Yeah, 7 tries to 5 for the Storm. Ali Katoa, Ryan Pappenhausen, Will Warbrick, Grant Anderson, Tyron Wishart, and Sua Falunga with 2. For the Tigers, Charlie Staines with 2, Fanor Bole, Lockie Galvin, and Joreen Buller.
Yeah, typical Storm performance here. For the most part, attack pretty much at will and never looked in doubt despite a tight first half. Ryan Pappenhausen looks to be getting back into the groove as well. Bellyache would not be impressed, 1, for that first half being as tight as it was, and 2, for letting the Tigers score 5 times. But they're just another one of those teams that are slowly building momentum for finals. Your take on Melbourne?
They just keep collecting the wins. They have all the pieces of the puzzle to go deep again this year. But to put it into context, they were playing the Tigers and they did concede 28 points. So I'm not getting massively carried away just yet. If they did put 40 on a Roosters or something, then stop the fight. But we'll have to see what they produce come finals time, rather than getting carried away with conceding 28 against the Tigers. Yeah.
Yeah, but look, one of those tries in the 70th minute, one on the 79th minute, the game was kind of done. You can switch off. So two of those tries were in junk time.
This isn't Union, Paul. You've got to be on for the whole 80. You've got to be
Junk
switched
time
on.
is basketball. Jesus, it's not even Union.
Doesn't matter. I'm just going to Union with you, Matt. I saw some stat before I asked you about the Tigers, but I think they said it was something like 60 points the Tigers have conceded while they've had a guy in the bin, because it seems to be an occurrence. They're getting a guy sin-binned almost every week now. But your take on the Tigers?
Yeah, unfortunately, I see the Tigers firming as a strong favourite for another wooden spoon.
Bold call, mate. Bold call.
Very, yeah, very realistic call. Yeah, they scored a few tries against the top team, so that's one positive takeaway. Probably the only one they can take away from this one. It's not a lot good you can say about that. They keep dropping games.
Mate, I'm more one-eyed as a Tigers fan than I am as a Warriors fan. I'm doing nothing but giving them positives here. They were outclassed, to be fair. They struggled to stop the Storm's attack, but they did show fight and put together a few nice tries. They're just a few steps behind a lot of the teams in this competition right now, but I think they're going to be a big improver in 2025. That's the hill I'm dying on, that we're going to see the Tigers be a top bottom 19 before 25's over.
Yeah, we've been saying it for years, haven't we? There's only one way up from where they are, and then last year they actually they went from 16th to 17th because of the Dolphins got added in. But next year, I genuinely feel like they have to go up from where they are. Surely,
they just need to work on their discipline. That's their biggest problem right now. And yeah, Paul said Tigers need to find a way to score lowest points for the season with 287. It's because they're spending most of the time with only 12 players, Paul. So it's hard. It's hard. But yeah, I think some of the signings they got coming next year will help with that aspect of the game. So
Lua and Taruva will help.
Yeah. But yeah, your player to stand out.
I went with a bloke that likes scoring special tries off scrums, Suafa'alongo. Might not have the greatest game of everyone out on the field, but just his acceleration and footwork is just very eye-catching for me. I do enjoy it.
Yeah, he played well. I went with Tyrone Wishart. I thought he's really finding his feet. He's never going to be your like superstar half, but he's just getting in there and doing the work. And he led fantasy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought he was good, solid enough at the kicking tee as well. Yeah, thought it was a good little game for being like the fill-in half that he has to be right now. Last game on Saturday, also another golden pointer. Sea Eagles defeating the Cowboys 21-20.
Yeah, 3 tries apiece in this one. For Manly, all 3 went to Jason Saab. For the Cowboys, Chad Townsend, Ruben Cotter, Kyle Felt.
Yeah, Manly looked to have this game in the bag at halftime, but they left the door open to allow the Cowboys to even it up. Made a few too many errors, but when they got into Golden Point, we all know that DCE's going to do what he does best and nail the win, which is what he did. Not the greatest performance, but they got the much-needed 2 points.
Mate, I've got to start reading your notes before I write mine and try and write something different.
That is why I give them to you before the show, you know.
I just look at the question you give me and then try and think of an answer. Okay, so yeah, for me, strong opening half from Manly, who were taking on the Cowboys, who looked to be on the up. They allowed the Cowboys to come back into it, and Drinkwater landed a 2-point field goal to force Golden Point. But is there a better team in Golden Point than DCE and the Sea Eagles? He just knows how to get it done from there.
Yeah, except for when he played the Warriors, but this time
we'll give him that one. Yeah.
Your take on the Cowboys?
Good fight back from the Cowboys to overturn the deficit and force Golden Point. They may consider this one a missed opportunity to carry on momentum after beating the Panthers, though, and they've had a few games they let slip. When I look at their roster on paper, they've lost a few games I feel like they should have won, much like us this year.
Yeah, Sharks Titans lost the standoff multi. Cowboys Seagulls game cost me mine. I was sitting on the edge of my seat hoping that the Cowboys would know how to get stuff in. But your take on the Cowboys?
I just gave you it.
Fine.
I did, didn't I? I did.
Brad doesn't listen to you. Don't worry.
Yeah, you don't read my notes. I don't listen to you. I went off on a tangent because I was talking about betting. I apologize.
I'll give you my player that stood out if you like.
No, we can wait. I'll talk about the Cowboys for a bit. Then. They did well to level the scores, including a great 2-point field goal from Drinkwater, but then for some reason didn't return to him when they're looking for the match winner, just going to Townsend and Holmes, who shanked all their attempts. Another team that may regret letting this win slip out of their grasp come finals time. And Paul said Ruben Cotter led with 76 fantasy points, and Ruben Garrick topped for the Seagulls with 69. We went for the same guy in this one, mate, and I think we were cheating, but who'd you go with?
Nah, you don't worry about Cotter. You picked the guy that got a hat-trick.
Yeah.
Got
them most of their points.
Yeah.
I went with Saab too. He's getting back into the groove again. He's had a few injury issues in his early career, but nothing flash. But if you can get him the ball, he's going to do something with it. So
he's so damn fast, so fast.
We'll move on to the first game on Sunday. Flanagan's such a good coach, but not when they're playing the Roosters. Roosters beating the Dragons 42-12.
Very true. 7 tries to 2 for the Roosters. Victor Radley, Dom Young, Lindsay Collins, Angus Crichton, James Tedesco, Daniel Tupou, Sitili Tupanua. And for the Dragons, Jacob Little, Christian Tuipulotu.
Yeah, Roosters had plenty to play for here with Jared Waerea-Hargreaves setting the new record for most games played by a Rooster. The forwards dominated the middle, and this let their backs have a field day. They just put the foot down and didn't look back. They even scored when they had a man down when Jared took an early break. As I said, it wouldn't be a game celebrating him without him getting sent to the bin. They are firming as grand finalists in my eyes. I said it a while back. I thought there was them. It would be them and Panthers potentially. Jacko said as well they're real contenders to win the premiership this year. I think they're just playing really well, and it's all working out. And I couldn't think of a better way for Jared to kind of end his Roosters career with them ending in a premiership. They've won enough, but I feel like it'd be a rock and a hard place if it's a Roosters-Panthers final and who I'd want to win. A bit like it was last year, where I didn't want to see the Panthers win, but I really didn't want to see the Broncos win either. So, your take on the Roosters, and I'll actually pay attention, I promise.
Pay attention because it's going to sound a lot like what you said again.
Why I stopped listening? Because you just said the same shit.
For the second time this year, the Roosters run right over the Dragons. The Roosters just looked too good with the ball, and they were playing for their mate, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, in his big day, fittingly getting sin-binned. I feel like they're a real title threat this year if they get it right come finals time.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Dragons?
The Dragons have done well this year for the most part. There has been the odd reminder this year that the gap between them and the top teams, there's a gap there. 2 of those games have come up against the Roosters, but still very much a chance to finish in the top 8, which would be, in my eyes, that'd be a successful season for them.
Mate, wash your mouth out. Dragons were never in this contest, only finding points on either side at half-time, with their attack looking very one-dimensional. Could not stop the Roosters' onslaught, and not a game they'd want to remember. And Paul has said James Tedesco led the fantasy points with a big 97. Who'd you go with, mate?
That's why I went with him.
Yeah, I went with him as well. He was doing everything he could to get picked in that Origin team. But thought it was a great game from him. We'll move on to the last game. Knights defeating the Raiders 16-12.
Yep, 3 tries to 2 for the Knights. Dane Gagai had 2. Greg Marju had 1. For the Raiders, Josh Papali'i and KO Weeks scoring another special try.
Yeah, very close match to end the round here, with the Knights just making a few more opportunities for themselves. Ponga added some much needed spark for them and got through the match injury free, which is a bonus for Newcastle. They may have ummed and ahed about him getting selected in Origin. Come on, we just got the guy back. But still had issues with their defense and errors, but they'll be happy to walk away with the result here, especially playing it in Canberra as well. But your take on the Knights?
The Knights, I feel like, navigated the period without Ponga pretty well, which kept them in the hunt. And now with the return of Ponga, that'll really help their fight for a top 8 spot, especially once he finds his feet. But it's another solid win, which keeps them in that, in that striking distance of the top 8 there. So another solid win for them.
Yeah, and your take on the Raiders?
Decent fight from the Raiders. I can't help but feel for them, as I think they looked like a really strong team earlier in the year with Fogarty leading them around, but almost like with the Broncos missing Reynolds, I feel like the Raiders really miss Jamal Fogarty's presence just to lead them around the park. Yeah, Raiders were competitive here, but they just made a few more errors, which ultimately sealed their fate. They played with heart, but sometimes that's simply just not enough, which we could say about several teams this round. Will be a tough matchup in round 20 for the Warriors, and what will be a must-win encounter for both sides. Both sides desperately need to get the 2 points out of that game, which hopefully it's on our side and not Simon's, but should make for an interesting clash anyway. Late game too, mate. 10 o'clock on a Friday night for us poor old Kiwis. Yeah.
But yeah, that is the round. So I don't know if Paul's bringing up the tips or the ladder. I'll let him pick.
But you player of the game?
Oh yeah. Do you want to? Who was your player, mate?
I went Gagai.
I went with Ponga.
Yeah, so, there you go.
And playing Gagai led with fantasy points. Sorry.
Yeah.
And Simon says hopefully it works out for him. I'm not wishing you luck, Simon. I need this win.
Yeah.
But yeah, Paul, what one are you giving a tipping? Oh, you bastard.
I'm coming for you, Brad.
Yeah.
7 out of 8 this round.
Richie got the top score with basically everyone getting 5s. Rocking Horse Road and Tam both got 6. Everyone else got 5 except for Bjorn, who hasn't joined us tonight, or he's been quiet. He only got 4.
Got a joker you should have used.
I'm spewing I didn't use my joker, but I wasn't super confident on a couple of those, Paul. Yeah, a couple of them came through.
Yeah.
But I wasn't confident on them.
Yeah, so I got the Titans Sharks game wrong. I got the Cowboys game wrong, and I got the Warriors game wrong. But yeah, we've still got Simon leading 1 point ahead of everyone at the top. Rockin' Horse Road second, 1 point behind. I'm 1 behind them on third. ACT Hellcat is 4th, and you've shot up to 5th. And yeah, Bjorn's still sitting at 8th. Hammer, I think, is completely given up, but he is down in the 12th. He can just never see things out to the end, I guess. But I'm still coming for you, Simon. I've still got a joker up my sleeve, so I might use it. I'm worried about Rockin' Horse Road, though, because he got 2.
I don't want to be that guy, but that week I forgot to submit my tips.
Yeah, what? Deems the breaks, mate.
I know. I can only blame myself.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the ladder. I gave you top 8 last week, so I'm taking it this week. So Melbourne's staying at the top. Panthers stay in second place. The Roosters have shot up to 3rd. Cronulla have shot down to 4th. Bulldogs stay where they were at 5th. Dolphins have stayed where they are at 6th. Manly have got back into the 8 at 7th, and Cowboys have shot down to 8th at a risk of dropping out.
And the bottom half of the table is Newcastle moved it into ninth. The Dragons have dropped to 10th. The Broncos have dropped to 11th. Raiders remain in 12th. The Rabbitohs have leapfrogged the Warriors, unfortunately. They're in 13th. The Warriors 14th. Gold Coast remain in 15th. Parramatta in 16th. And the Tigers remain dead last.
Yeah, it's hard. I've been doing that whole putting a line through player teams, and realistically, with how close it is, the only two I'm ruling out 100% now are the Eels and Tigers. Titans are 4 points out of the 8. We're 3, and we're 14th and 15th. Depending on how you go, they could end up going up or they could end up staying where they are. It's really hard to say. And on that same token, a team like the Sharks, how I said they're on 24 right now, they're just as much of a risk of falling out of the 8. It's that tight. I don't remember. I can't remember the year. It was a year where like top 8 and like second to last were a couple of points away in the final round, and a lot of it was sorted out by points differential. But there are a few teams that could potentially make the 8, and there are a few teams that could potentially drop out. I could quite easily say Sharks, Bulldogs, Dolphins are just as likely to fall out of the 8, depending on what happens. Bulldogs are going to run out of home games at some point, right?
Yeah, true.
But yeah, what do you reckon about the ladder?
Yeah, it's so tight, like you say. It's tough to draw a line. It's easy to draw a line over the top of Parramatta and the Tigers, but the way Gold Coast have sort of dealt to us the way they did and then beat a top 4 team on the weekend, you wouldn't entirely put it past them to go on a run. I don't feel like they will. We'd be more likely to do that.
But I'm just putting hypotheticals out there.
I think from us upwards, there's a hopeful chance, but we'd have to go on a run.
Yeah, so Jacko said Bulldogs have almost all away games from now on. So yeah, that's probably as many points as they're going to get.
How many bullshit? Because of the Bulldogs have got 4 home games and 4 away games to finish off the season.
Yeah, well, 4 and 4. So they'll get 4 wins maybe. I don't know how many buys.
Yes.
Yeah, they have 2 buys played, so they got 1 buy up their sleeve as well. But yeah,
they have to come to Mount Smart too.
Yeah, so yeah, they're 8-0 at home and they're 1-7 away.
They've got the bye this coming weekend, and they travel to Cowboys, Broncos.
Lost.
The Raiders at home.
They'll lose to the Raiders at home. Yeah, Raiders will beat them. I'm on Simon's team.
They're going to win that game.
They squeaked the last 2 games at home in Golden Point, Paul. They squeaked it. They were desperate.
They then travel to the Dragons, which according to you they're going to win. Then they have the Dolphins at home. They travel to the Warriors, have the Sea Eagles at home, and the Cowboys at home.
Dragons will beat them. It might be the only game I go for this year. For the Dragons.
What have you got against the Dogs? It's recency biased.
They screwed us this week, Paul. Bulldogs, full disclosure, were my first team in the NRL. So I do have a soft spot for them, but not after what they did to us.
Well, you can't blame them.
They didn't do it. The bunker did it.
Salmon did the action. So yeah, that's it for the ladder. So we'll move on to questions, mate. Do we have any questions from the crowd, Paul, or do we answer them all like we normally do?
We also want to know you, but I've got one for you guys. A number of teams have kind of are going through a bad patch now. Is this because of Origin and they're going to revert to normal in a week or so's time, or are these teams on decline? So you've got the Broncos, who are on a 5-game losing streak since round 12. The Raiders have lost 5 out of their last 6 since round 12. The Sharks have lost 5 out of the last 6 since round 12. This round 12 has really been a bad kind of point. Dolphins, 4 out of 5 since round 12. So those 4 teams have all fallen off a cliff since round 12. Is it terminal for those 4 teams, or are those 4, or one of the, or is that because of the Origin has screwed them over?
I think the Broncos' origin may have played a part, but also injury with
Reynolds.
Adam Reynolds. A couple of those teams probably aren't so badly affected by origin. It's either injury or just poor form and how close the competition is.
I think Sharks just were lucky to have a softer draw at the start, and now they're getting shown up when that's a bit more competitive. But yeah, I don't think Origin's hit any of those teams too badly. It's just injuries and they're rubbish.
The other team that did have that kind of problem, but has righted it, is the Knights. They lost in rounds 13, 14, and 15. They had buys in 12 and 16, so they went. So they again, round 12 was a cut-off point. They lost 3 on the bounce. They managed to turn around and come back with 2 wins. But a lot of others, those 4 teams at the top that I mentioned, it really is kind of it's stark how they all fell off on the same round as well. From the crowd, though, the here and now, will the Warriors make the 8? From Nicholas McCurcher.
I think the episode I missed, Brad posed that question to me, I think, and my answer was, I feel like we're going to miss. We've just left a few too many games out there we should have won that we dropped, and it's going to be extremely disappointing, but I still feel like going into next year, we've got a good enough team to rebound and go into the 8. Take it as a wake-up call, I guess.
We're making the 8.
I love it, Brad. Love the optimism.
We are 2024's Newcastle Knights. We're going to go on a hell of a run at the back end of the season and come out of nowhere to make it, and then get embarrassed at some point in the finals.
Do you have a TAB bet that backs up your confidence?
I have a top 4 bet and a top 8 bet that I put in.
There you go. I knew you would too. That's why I asked.
I do a top 8 bet every year. Yeah, top four is done, but they won't give me my money back. But yeah, I still think I would have rather have done the bet now, to be honest, because it's paying a hell of a lot more than what it was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, no,
true.
Sure. So to give you an idea as to what they're running, looks like by this coming weekend, away to the Raiders before they host the Tigers, and then the Eels.
Win.
Travel to the Dolphins.
Win.
Ooh, tough, but win.
And then travel to the Sea Eagles.
Win.
Win.
Nah, I don't know.
The draw earlier in the season. And then host the Cowboys before traveling to the Sharks and having a bye.
Comprehensively win those.
Boom, there we go. Undefeated for the rest of the year, guys. Too easy.
Undefeated for the rest of the year.
Undefeated for the rest of the year. That's a hell of a run. In all seriousness, most of those
to point out that the Warriors on the road are 2-6.
3-6 if you want to count the Magic Round, Paul. They made us play a home game in Brisbane.
4 wins if you want to count the robbery that just happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
If my art was all that kind of stuff.
We were the team that defeated the Bulldogs. First team to defeat the Bulldogs at home this year.
Without actually doing it.
Well, second team, I think, isn't it? If you're going to, because the Sharks did the previous weekend. But anyway, so go on to your own questions now, boys. And you're only an hour and 23 in, so yeah.
Well, we've got no Warriors team to talk about, so we're fine. You go with your question to me, mate.
Sure. With young guns Halasima, Laban, and Zion making appearances this year, and highly rated Sifakula, who we saw in first grade for a couple of games last year, also in the background. Do you see any of them realistically claiming a regular spot in the 17 next year?
I'm not sure yet. It all depends what happens with Jazz.
Yeah.
If they decide to let Jazz go, I could see a Sifakula or a Laban getting a regular spot. I expect to see Halasima and Zion getting game time. But in terms of, as you said, a regular spot, I think Sif's highly rated with the within the organization. So I expect him to get the first bite at the apple. But Laban's showing that he can come in and do week in, week out as well when needed. So those are the top two. It all depends. We don't know if Halasima is going to get, another 3 or 4 games this season. He might jump the queue potentially if he can deliver consistent performances. Game after game, he might jump. But yeah, I think it all goes at the moment. If Jazz gets re-signed, I don't see them getting ahead of him just yet.
Yeah.
That's what I would go with. It all depends on Jazz, to be honest.
Age-wise, Halasima's the youngest of the lot too, so I think he's very much got time on his side. Clearly a lot of upside with that guy though, from what we saw.
Yeah, and once whatever has happened between Zion and Webby gets cleared, we'll see Zion get some more game times too. So we just got to air out their grievances behind closed doors and sort it out, and get back on good terms. But yeah, Zion, I think he might be back from injury soon too, which will help. But yeah, my question for you, mate, with a stack of new injuries, what would be your Warriors back five for the next game coming up against the Raiders? So I've asked you this question with the expectation that Chance and Marcelo were both out. Sounds like Marcelo might be back, so you can throw him in if you want.
Well, yeah, I was going to answer it on the assumption that Marcelo was out, so I'll do both. If Marcelo's fit, I go Dallin on one wing, Marcelo on the other, Roger to fullback. Oh no, sorry, Roger one centre, Pompey the other centre, Tane to fullback.
Yep.
Without Marcelo, it's essentially the same, except Leotawa comes in as a centre and Roger pushes out to a wing.
Yeah, that's what I've got as well. If Marcelo's playing, everyone's the same except Tane Tulpiki comes in at fullback.
Yeah.
If Marcelo's out, Roger moves out to the wing and Ali Leotawa comes into centres for me too. And Nicholas has asked a question saying, what would it take to entice Brad to attend a Gold Coast match? Richard did it from all reports. I don't recall when you went to a Gold Coast game, mate. Without me.
I've never been to the stadium Gold Coast. I've been to Suncorp. That wasn't for a Warriors game. It was for a Kiwis versus Kangaroos.
I've never been to a sporting arena in Australia. I've been to them in America, but I've never been to them in Australia.
Well, I was just going to say Suncorp something else, but if you've been to stadiums in America, then that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, I'd love to. I've been to Gold Coast many times, and I really like it there. So maybe one day, Brett.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good trip for us to do because we know the Warriors go hard with their fan day experience in Gold Coast as well, as we've seen with the videos and that Ruin Hammer put up. So that would be a game to go to. Probably a hell of a lot cheaper than going to Magic Round too.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, what would it entice me, Nicholas? To answer your question, money. Yeah, give me money and I'll go anywhere. But yeah.
Absolute tart.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's it for the questions. We can look into round 19. There's no Warriors game, so we don't have a Warriors team to talk about. So we'll go straight into the fixtures. Only 5, which means it'll only be like a 2-hour, maybe 3-hour show next week. First up on Thursday, we have Dolphins Rabbits. I've gone with the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I think at home, no Latrell. Yeah. So you the same?
Yeah, I've been a hometown picker this week. Yeah, Dolphins.
Then
Seriously?
Friday night. Yeah.
I just talked to you boys about the fact that Dolphins are on an absolute shocking run of 4 out of the last 5 games have lost. The Rabbits are on a 5-game winning streak, and you're both going Dolphins.
Yeah, no Latrell.
No Latrell.
You need your heads seen to, boys. There's more multi running around in game 1.
All bad things come to an end. Well, they're gonna win it. They're gonna win this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, see, even Simon agrees with us, and he's leading the tipping comp. Paul. So
Wayne Bennett knows how the bunnies tick.
Yeah, and that was part of his deal to sign as the coach for the Bunnies. Is that the Bunnies aren't allowed to beat the Dolphins this year? So Friday night we got Sharks Tigers. I gone with Sharks. This will be good. This will be the end of the Sharks' aspirations of being a legitimate team. If they lost to the Tigers, they have to win.
Well, didn't they already lose to the Tigers this year?
Yeah, they can't do it twice. You can't be the
Yeah,
team
they
that loses the
can't.
Tigers 2 times in the season.
They can't do it twice, surely.
What you mean? They lost by 26 points to the Tigers. It wasn't even a small loss. It's a big win. And you're still going Sharks, who are
I'm
on
going Sharks.
who have lost 5 out of the last 6 games.
They're going to win. They're going to beat the Tigers. I'm sorry.
I went Sharks as well.
I'll be honest. Clearly, it has to be Sharks, but I mean, there are some great numbers to say it shouldn't be.
Yeah,
I'm telling you who I put my money on this week in my multi. So
the Tigers have won 3 at home, 1 away. If they'd actually won a few more away, I would have said, no, look, boys, this is a Tigers win. But anyway, no.
yeah, and Jagger said Tigers are a chance. 100%. I'd love to see it. It'll kill my multi, but I'd love to see them beat the Sharks. But yeah, Saturday we've got 2 games. The first game is Titans Eels. I've gone with Titans.
me too.
Yep.
So this is another one of these ones that's a bit difficult. So the Eels have not won away all season, right? They're 0-7 away, but the Titans play better away than they do at home. The Titans are 3-4 away, but they've won 2 out of 6 at home. The Titans are crap at home, and the Eels, but luckily the Eels can't play away. So I'll agree with you.
No Mitch Moses either.
This thing about who cares about the players? Stats, man, stats.
The last game on Saturday is Broncos Dragons. I've gone Broncos. I think this is finally a time they can break their streak. No, Paul's going to love it. Dragons, no Lomax, no Ben Hunt.
But the Dragons. Actually, I think I agree with you on this one. Some of the other ones. Yeah, I mean the Dragons 3-6 away from home, so yeah, this should be a win for the Broncos.
Yeah,
Broncos,
and then final game, Manly Knights. I've gone with Manly.
Me too.
It was hard. The big names for both sides are out, but Tommy Turbo is playing for Manly, so
yeah.
It's I think a couple actually. So you've agreed on all 5 games.
yeah.
Yes.
I think the first time this year.
Fantastic. That's great for my multi.
Yep. You watch that multi be over on Thursday night. And Jacko's leaving because he knows we're about to hit Super League. So that is the round. Hopefully we actually get a perfect round. It'll be great. Wigan have stretched their lead at the top of the ladder in Super League to 4 points after another win. Still have only played 15 matches compared to the 16 played by the rest of the table leaders, who are St. Helens, Warrington, Hull KR and Salford, who are all sitting 2nd to 5th, all on 22 points. London also almost nabbed their 2nd win of the year, but so close yet so far, and still sit with a 1-win, 15-loss record at the bottom of the ladder. So the results, we had Wigan defeat Leigh 24-6, Castleford defeat St. Helens 8-6, Warrington defeat Huddersfield 40-0, Leeds defeat London 17-16, Catalans defeat Hull KR 15-14, and then Salford defeat Hull FC 22-20. And then this week we've got Warrington versus Leeds, Wigan versus St. Helens, so that should be a cracker. London versus Castleford, Hull FC versus Hull KR, Leigh versus Huddersfield, and then Catalans versus Salford. And then, Simon said he was watching the London game and he felt sorry for them. I feel for them like I do with the Tigers. You just want to see them get a win.
Yeah.
It must be terrible. I've never been. I don't know if you have, Richie. Have you ever been involved in a team that just can never win?
Are you serious?
As a player.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I support all of those teams. No. I don't think I've been part of a team that's lost every game. No, I don't imagine it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I've been fortunate to be in a first 15 team that had one loss for the whole season, and that. So I've been on the other side of it where you're always winning, but never in a always losing. I had under 21s and stuff where I think even in under 21s we always made the final, so we had to be doing all right. So yeah, I don't know what it would go through, but yeah, Simon said London's definitely going to get relegated because they've been judged on the last 3 years' performance. Yeah, yeah, they have to. But yeah, anything else you guys want to add?
No, not really.
Anything from you, Paul? Or are you just going to judge our tips in the background? I can see you fuming on your little camera.
Yeah, I gave you judgments on as live as you gave them.
Yeah. Taking the glasses off now. Jeez.
I'm just wondering whether I put another multi on that's in the exact opposite of that multi, because much better shot.
You'll end up losing both. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. on Facebook or YouTube, or at your convenience on iHeartRadio or Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers again for joining me, Richie, and thanks for your help in the background, Paul. And good night, everyone.